10.2 talks about graphing linear equations. This is very similar to what we did back in 10.1. So what I have here is I have my equation. Let me go ahead and get my pen. I have my equation right here, x minus y equals 6. And again, we have our table of values right here. And we'll do just as we did prior. So in my first problem, I'm going to call this part A. Let me erase that a little bit. Okay, let me go back to my pen. So for part A, I don't know what x is. We do know that y equals 0. So I'm going to write x minus 0 is equal to 6. So that's going to tell me x is equal to 6. So I'm going to go ahead and put a 6 right here. I'm going to do this all over again. So I'm going to clean this up. And now I'm going to go ahead and do part B. And in part B, I know that x is equal to 4, but I don't know what y is. So I'm going to say 4 minus y equals 6. So I'm going to go ahead and minus 4 on both sides. That's going to leave me a negative y equals 2. So when I divide both sides by negative 1, that's going to leave me y equals negative 2. So I'll go ahead and put a negative 2 right there. So now let's do part C. So for part C, again, we don't know what x is equal to, but we do know that y is equal to negative 1. So I'm going to write x minus a negative 1 is equal to 6. That becomes x plus 1 is equal to 6. So when I minus 1 on both sides, I'm going to get x is equal to 5. I'll go ahead and put a 5 right there. So now that we have that, all I want to do is draw my line and connect my dots. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. Oops. Okay, so my first point is 6, 0. So that'll be this point right here. My next point should be 4 and negative 2. So that'll be this point right here. And my last point is going to be 5 and negative 1. So that'll be that point right there. And if you notice, I can draw a line, and it goes through all those points. And we're done. Okay, so my next problem here says for me to graph y equals negative 4x, and again I have my table of values. So just as we did before, I'm going to go ahead and do this in 3 parts. So in the first part, I know that x is equal to 1, but I don't know what y is. So we're just going to go ahead and write this out. Y equals negative 4 times x, which is 1. So y is equal to negative 4. So I'm going to go ahead and put a negative 4 right there. All right, let's go ahead and do part B. In part B, again, I know that x equals 0, but I don't know what y is. So y equals negative 4 times 0. Well, negative 4 times 0, still 0. And then for my last part, here we know that x equals negative 1, and again we want to find what y is. So y equals negative 4 times negative 1. Well, negative 4 times negative 1 is a positive 4. I'm going to go ahead and put that one there. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit. I'm going to plot each of my points. The first point is 1 and negative 4. So 1 and negative 4 would be right there. There's 1, negative 4. Let me scroll back up. My next point is 0, 0. Okay, 0, 0 is right here in the origin, right in the middle. And my last point should be negative 1 and positive 4. So negative 1 and positive 4 is 1 to the left and up 4. And again, now you can see that as I draw this, all my points connect. Alright, going on to my third problem, I have y equals 1/3 x. Alright, so let's go ahead and do this just like we've done before. So my first part, x is equal to 0. I don't know what y is. So I'm going to write y equals 1/3 times 0. Well, 1/3 times 0 is still 0. Alright, so now let's go ahead and do part B. So in part B, x is equal to 6. We want to find the value of y. So I'm going to write y equals 1/3. Since I'm plugging in my number 6, since I'm dealing with fractions, I'm going to think of 6 as a fraction by writing it as 6 over 1. So remember, all I need to do is multiply straight across here. 1 times 6 is 6, 3 times 1 is 3, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. And so for my last part, C, x is equal to -3. I want to find the value of y. So y equals 1 over 3 times -3 over 1. So that's going to leave me with a -3 over a +3. And -3 divided by +3 is just a -1. Alright, so now let me go ahead and plot my points. So my first point is a point 0, 0. It's right here in the origin. My next point is 6, 2, so that's going to be to the right 6 spaces and up 2. And my third point is -3 and -1, so that's to the left 3, down 1. And again, if we're doing this right, all 3 points should be lining up. Okay, so for our next problem here, we have y equals -4x plus 3, and again we have our table of values. So we'll do this as we've been doing the other problems. In my first part, I know that x equals 0. I want to find the value of y. So I'm going to go ahead and write out y equals -4 times 0 plus 3. So y equals -4 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 3 is just 3. So now let me do my second part, part B. So here we know that x is equal to 1, but we don't know the value of y. So y equals -4 times 1 plus 3. So y equals -4 plus 3, and that's just -1. And I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, and I can do my third part. Part C says that x is equal to 2, and I want to see if I can find the value of y. So y equals -4 times 2 plus 3. So y equals -4 times 2 is -8 plus 3. And -8 plus 3 is simply -5. Okay, so now let's see if we can go ahead and plot these points. So my first point is 0, 3. That means from the middle I'll stay here, but I'll go up to 3. Here's my first point. 1 and -1 means I'm going to move to the right 1 and then down 1. And then 2 and -5 means I'm going to move to the right 2 and down to 5. And as you can see, all 3 of our points are lining up, right? Okay, so for our next problem, we're going to go ahead and graph 4x minus 2y equals 6. The first thing I want you to notice is we don't have a table of values yet. So that's okay. We're going to go ahead and figure out how to do that in a minute. The first thing I want to do, though, is I want to get this equation and I want to solve it for the letter y, meaning I want to get the letter y by itself. So my first step here is I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to minus 4x on both sides. I'm going to minus 4x on both sides. So these will cancel. That's going to leave me with a -2y equals a -4x plus 6. And now, because I want to get the y by itself, I need to get rid of that negative 2. And so the last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to divide everything here by negative 2 all the way across. So these negative 2's will cancel out, and that's going to leave me with a y equals a negative 4 divided by a negative 2 is a positive 2 with an x. A positive 6 divided by a negative 2 is a negative 3. Okay, so now that we have our equation solved for y, now we're going to go ahead and make our table of values. So I'm going to do this just like the way our other ones were. Now, what's important here is that you can choose the values of x that you pick. It really doesn't make any difference what numbers you put in there. And so a lot of times people say, pick numbers. I tell my students, pick numbers that are small. I know 17 might be your favorite number, but then I'm going to have to go all the way over here, all the way to 17. So I pick numbers that are relatively small, like say, I don't know, 0, 1, and 2. Okay? So now I'm going to go ahead and do my first part. I'm going to say what happens when x is equal to 0. So then I would say, okay, well, y equals 2 times 0 minus 3. 2 times 0 is 0, and 0 minus 3 is a negative 3. So now the number I'm going to put in here, negative 3. Okay, let's do that all over again. I'm just going to kind of scroll it down a little bit so I have some more room. And now we're going to plug in x equals 1. So y equals 2 times 1 minus 3. Well, 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 minus 3 is a negative 1. So now right here I'm going to go ahead and put negative 1. And we'll do this a third time, and now we're going to plug in 2. So y equals 2 times 2 minus 3. So y equals 4 minus 3, and 4 minus 3 is just a positive 1. So right here I'll put a positive 1. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and plot my points. So my first point right here is the point 0, negative 3. So from the middle, I just go down to negative 3. My next point is 1 and negative 1. So we're going to go to the right one, and down 1. And then our last point is the point 2 and positive 1. So I'm going to go to the right 2 and up 1. And if you notice, all of our points are lining up. Okay, our last problem here out of 10.2 is very similar to the problem we did before. I don't have a table of values. This equation is already solved for y. But the one thing I want you to notice about this problem compared to the other one is that now I have a fraction in here. And remember what a fraction means. A fraction means that I'm going to, let me get my pen. My fraction means I'm going to multiply, the top number, but I'm going to divide by the bottom number. So in this case, since my bottom number is 2, when I make my table of values like this, again, we can pick any numbers we want to pick. But because I'm going to be dividing by 2, I want to pick numbers that I know I can divide by 2. Well, I can divide 0 by 2. I can also divide 2 by 2. And I can divide 4 by 2. And if I do this, it's going to make all my answers come out to nice numbers. So let's go ahead and see if we can figure out how to do this problem. Okay, so for my first part, we're going to pick x equals 0. So y equals 1/2 times 0 plus 2. Well, 1/2 times 0 is still 0. And 0 plus 2, well, that's just 2. Okay, now let's do part B. Now we're going to pick x is equal to 2. So I'm going to say y equals 1 over 2. Since I'm plugging in the number 2, I'm going to think of it as a fraction as 2 over 1 plus 2. I'm going to multiply straight across. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 1 is also 2 plus 2. Well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1 plus 2 is just 3. And so now let's do the third part where we're going to plug in x equals 4. All right, so now I'm going to say, okay, part C, y equals 1 over 2 times, I'm going to plug in 4 over 1 plus 2. So I'm going to multiply straight across. 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2 plus 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. And 2 plus 2 is just 4. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and look at my points up here. 0, 2. Let me go ahead and plot 0, 2. So 0, 2 from the middle would mean we're just going to go up to 2. The point 2, 3 would mean we're going to move to the right 2 and up to 3. Oops. And my last point is 4, 4. So I'm going to move to the right 4 and then up to 4. And now we can draw our line, and it goes through all 3 points.